All right, let's talk about endings. You know, we're so often taught to fear them, to see them as a sign of failure. But what if we've got the grammar of our own lives all wrong? We're going to explore a new way of looking at this, not as dead ends, but as the essential punctuation that actually gives our story meaning.
This quote right here, this is the whole idea in a nutshell. I mean, just think about it for a second. Without a period or a question mark, what do you have? Just a long run-on sentence that never really says anything, right? It's just a jumble of words. Well, the argument here is that our lives work the exact same way. An ending isn't a failure. It's the thing that gives a chapter its shape and, crucially, sets up whatever comes next.
So, if life has this kind of grammar, these natural pauses and stops, why are we so bad at it? Why do we fight it tooth and nail? Let's get into why we resist the natural punctuation of our own stories. You know the feeling, right? A job ends, a relationship is over, a whole phase of your life just concludes. Our gut reaction is almost always the same. I failed. I did something wrong. But this is where we challenge that whole idea. What if these moments aren't the end of the road? What if they're simply the full stop at the end of a sentence, creating that necessary pause before the next one can begin? Okay, I know what you might be thinking. If it's just punctuation, why does it hurt so much? Why does it feel so permanent? And that's a fair question. Turns out there's a really powerful psychological reason for this, and understanding it is absolutely key.
And here it is. It actually has a name. Narrative foreclosure. This is that voice in your head, the one that says, well, that's it. It's over. This layoff, this breakup, this is my story now. It's our brain's tendency to jump to the conclusion and just slam the book shut, when really, we've only finished a single chapter. And this right here explains exactly why we fall into that trap so easily. Endings are loud. They're noisy and dramatic. The big conversation, the official email, those things have a huge emotional volume. But beginnings, they almost always start as a whisper. That first quiet morning you wake up with a new kind of freedom. That little idea that pops into your head now that there's space for it. We mistake the loudest moment for the most important one.
So that's the theory. But let's get out of the abstract and into a real story, because that's where the stuff really hits home. This is about an ending that someone didn't choose, but one that became completely essential.
So picture this. It's a Tuesday, a totally normal Tuesday. And then, bam, the email lands. The meeting is called. The cardboard box is on the desk. And just like that, a 10-year chapter of his life is over. And this shows the journey perfectly. Right after it happened, what was the story he told himself? I just wasted 10 years of my life. That's textbook narrative foreclosure. But time passes, and look at the shift. The event itself didn't change, but its meaning did. It transformed from a dead end into a course correction. It became the full stop he desperately needed, but would have never, ever written for himself.
This is such a powerful way to put it. The layoff didn't burn the whole book. It didn't cancel out the last 10 years. It simply forced a line break. It pushed him down to the next line on the page, and that's where a whole new paragraph, a whole new chapter could finally begin.
This leads to a really surprising truth. We think of endings as destructive, but in a way, they're actually creative. They're what we call enabling constraints. It sounds like a contradiction, but by shutting one door, they enable all the other doors to open. You literally can't start a new business when your old job is taking up all your time and energy. Nothing new can get in until something old gets out of the way. That's not a tragedy, it's just mechanics.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But what do you do when you're actually in it? When the ending is fresh and it just plain hurts? Well, there's actually a playbook for this, a practical framework you can use.
Let's break these down. Step 1. Get specific. Stop saying, my life is over. That's drama, it's too big to deal with. Instead, say, this specific role ended. See, that's a problem you can actually work on. Step 2. Every ending forces you to build a new muscle. Maybe it's patience, resilience, or just learning how to ask for help. Name that skill. Step 3, and this one's a game changer, ask the writer's question. Not, how do I fix this, but what happens next that makes this an interesting story? And finally, step 4, and this is so important, just move. Take a walk, call a friend, start a tiny project. Don't wait to figure it all out. The meaning you're looking for is found in motion.
And that brings us to the real heart of all this. It's not about just passively accepting that things end. It's about actively using that ending as a launch pad.
Let this one really sink in for a moment. An ending doesn't mean the past was a waste. It doesn't invalidate it. It just completes the thought. It draws a line under it, so you can finally look back and see what that chapter was all about. And that completion, That's the clarity you need to even begin writing the next sentence.
So here's the bottom line. Your life isn't a series of screw-ups. It's a long, messy, beautiful story. And the endings, the tough parts, they aren't failures. They're just the punctuation that makes the whole thing readable. So instead of asking, why did this have to end, the invitation is to ask a much better, much more powerful question. Look at the last period in your own life and ask yourself, what sentence are you being invited to write next?